Let me ask you something. What would you do if the people who were supposed to raise you with love only saw you as a paycheck? What if the very people who paraded you around as their good deed were secretly stealing your inheritance, your family treasures, and even your future? This is the story of how one girl, betrayed, used and ignored by her so-called foster parents, turned the tables in the most devastating, unforgettable way possible. A revenge so perfect that even years later, her foster parents are still living with the shame. Before we continue, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and drop a comment if you've ever felt underestimated. The story begins with heartbreak. At just 10 years old, my entire world shattered in an instant. My mom and dad, my whole life, were killed in a horrific hit-and-run accident. My dad was only 39, my mom 35. Too young, far too young. And I was suddenly alone. No close relatives could take me in. The plan was the orphanage, but then a kind church-going couple stepped in. In our small town, everyone knew each other. And this couple, Mr. and Mrs. Banks, made a grand show in front of the congregation. Mrs. Banks, with her syrupy sweet voice, stood up in church and announced, "A little girl needs a loving home. And God has given us this joyous task of bringing her up in our home and our hearts." Sounds touching, right? Sounds selfless. But behind the curtain, nothing about it was genuine. The Banks had a daughter of their own, Kitty, just 1 year older than me. You'd think that would make us sisters, maybe even best friends. But no, Kitty barely acknowledged me. She looked down on me, with her nose always tilted slightly higher, like she was born holier than thou. The state gave the Banks a stipend to foster me. But what no one knew was that they were also receiving monthly checks from my father's estate. Money that was meant for me, to care for me until I was 18. Money that would eventually become mine, in full, once I turned 18. But the Banks had other plans, behind closed doors. The Banks weren't cruel in the obvious sense. They didn't hit me or scream at me, but they treated me like furniture, an accessory. In public, they put on a show so sweet it made me sick. Mrs. Banks would squeeze my shoulder, call me our precious blessing, and force Kitty to act like a loving sister. But once the audience was gone, they ignored me. Unless, of course, it was time for the social worker's visit. Then suddenly I was told to smile, to gush about how wonderful and godly my foster parents were. They coached me like I was rehearsing for a play. And I played along because meanwhile, my father's money, my inheritance, was bleeding away. Trips to New York, a shiny new Volvo, designer clothes for Kitty, expensive, donations to the church, all in the Bank's name, making them look like the most generous couple in town. They wore their greed like saints' robes, fooling everyone but me. And the antiques. Oh, the antiques? My mom had collected them for years, treasures from the past. Pieces with history, stories embedded in their surfaces. Mrs. Banks raided them like a vulture, gifting them to Kitty or passing them to her relatives, acting as if they had always been hers. But there was one treasure she kept her eye on, one she thought I was too ignorant to understand. An authentic, complete Baroque-era fine china set, worth tens of thousands. A set so rare it could have been displayed in a museum. Mrs. Banks loved to coo about it in private. "This will be Kitty's wedding gift one day." She said it so casually, so arrogantly, as if I was invisible. As if my inheritance, my legacy, my family's treasures belonged to her. But she made one fatal mistake. She thought I didn't care. Before we continue, don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and leave your thoughts in the comments. Especially if you've ever seen someone fake kindness for appearances. As the years went by, their hypocrisy only grew. They treated me like a prop for their reputation. The little orphan they saved. The godly family who gave me a home. They loved playing the role of saints at church. But in private, they made it clear I was nothing but a burden. When I was 17, I started piecing things together. I noticed the checks from my dad's estate, money meant for me, were being siphoned into their luxuries. A $40,000 car, cash, a second car for Kitty, another $20,000 cash. Trips to Hawaii. Trips to New York. Lavish gifts to the church which earned them applause and status. All at the expense of my parents' legacy. And Kitty? She waltzed into college with tuition quietly covered by my inheritance. My money. The banks never admitted it outright. But they hinted again and again that I owed them for raising me. That when I turned 18 and came into full control of my inheritance, I should be generous, godly, share the wealth with them. Generous? They had already bled me dry. And then, there was the china set. The one thing my mother had never put in her antique store. The one treasure she kept safe, whispering to me when I was little, "Things are just things, sweetheart. Never obsess over them. But this is history. Keep it safe." That set belonged to me. My mother's words were etched into my memory. Yet Mrs. Banks would stroke the plates with her greedy hands and smile smugly. This will be Kitty's one day. Won't it look lovely at her wedding? I kept quiet. I acted indifferent. But inside? Inside I was planning. I was tallying every dollar, every theft, every stolen piece of my life. And when the time came, they would regret ever underestimating me. By the time Kitty left for college, I had already made my move. I'd earned a partial scholarship to study out of state, and my inheritance would cover the rest. I was leaving, finally free. But freedom wasn't enough. They had taken too much. They had paraded me around like a trophy orphan while bleeding my family dry, so I started preparing. I gathered every quarterly bank statement, every shred of proof. I asked the bank directly for copies of my trust reports, and they handed them over without question. And I wrote everything down, every major purchase, every trip, every outrageous splurge that didn't match an insurance salesman and a housewife's income. I put it all into a 3-ring binder. Neat, organized, unarguable. But the binder was only part one. The real masterpiece? That would be the china set. Every year, our church held an antique sale extravaganza. The banks loved donating random trinkets and taking full credit. It made them look so charitable, so righteous. This time, I would beat them at their own game. While the banks were away on one of their shopping sprees, I carefully boxed up the china set and delivered it to the church. With the sweetest smile, I told the committee, Mrs. Banks wanted to donate this priceless set. All proceeds will go to the church, in her name. The ladies nearly fainted. This was the most valuable item the sale had ever seen. Tens of thousands of dollars in fine Baroque china, donated by the oh-so-godly Mrs. Banks. I even gave them the number of an attorney in New York, should they need proof of ownership. Everything was airtight. And just like that, the stage was set. Because trust me, you're going to want to weigh in on whether my revenge was too far, or not far enough. So after the antique sale fiasco, I knew Mrs. Banks would be desperate. And desperate people, they make mistakes. A week later, she got her answer. But not the one she wanted. A thick package arrived at the Banks' home. Inside was a binder, my binder. Page after page of neatly organized bank statements. Every quarterly report from my trust. Every suspicious luxury purchase they made over the years. Every expensive vacation, car, or shopping spree. All documented. But that wasn't all. The binder also contained a formal letter from my attorney. It spelled out in no uncertain terms that the banks had misappropriated funds meant for my care. And here's the kicker. If they ever contacted me again for money, or tried to harass me in any way, my lawyer would not hesitate to file a lawsuit and drag their names into court. In short, they could either shut their mouths and disappear from my life, or face public exposure and legal hell. From that day on, I never heard a word from them again. 10 years passed. I built my own life. I became a third-grade teacher, married an accountant, and we now have 2 beautiful kids. My daughter is 1. My son is 3. We live far away from that suffocating little town, and we're happy. Kitty? Surprisingly, she and I reconnected. She'd gone through her own journey, realized just how toxic her parents were, and went to therapy to heal. She apologized for how she treated me as a kid, and today, we're friends. She's a teacher, too, married to an engineer with a daughter of her own. Our kids even play together. Both of us have built the kind of family life our parents never gave us. And the Banks? They're still in that small town, too broke to leave. their reputation is ruined. People whisper behind their backs, calling them that couple who drove away both their children and stole from an orphan girl. They're living proof that you can't fake. Kindness forever, eventually. The mask slips. All they got out of their schemes was a Volvo, a bunch of debt, and a reputation that will follow them to their graves. When I think back on it now, I don't feel guilt. Was it petty? Maybe. Was it justified? Absolutely. See, revenge isn't always about screaming or fighting back directly. Sometimes the sweetest revenge is letting people choke on the lies they built for themselves and making sure the whole world sees it. So I ask you, if you were in my shoes, would you have done the same? Or would you have gone even further? Let me know in the comments below. And if you enjoyed this story, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe for more dramatic tales of karma and revenge. Until next time, stay safe, stay strong, and remember, sometimes karma just needs a little push.